Hi, this is Carl with another SOP video for managed service providers. Today I want to talk about configuring routers and firewalls. In particular, what I really care about is documenting routers and firewalls. The weird thing about routers and firewalls is that you almost never have to mess with them. But when you do, two very important things happen. One is if you can't get into it, you're kind of in trouble. And second, if you make a mistake, you can break a whole lot of stuff. I'll never forget the day that I had somebody call me and say, my moron MSP is breaking everything in the office. And I was like, I have no idea what you're talking about or how this can happen. So I went in there, and it turns out what dude had done was to try to do an update to a firewall that he did not understand in the least. And then what happened, of course, is that he broke connections to the server. So now people couldn't get their email. Instead of saying, oh, I just made a change to the firewall, he went over to the server and said, well, let me troubleshoot email. So we started breaking things on the server. And then people said, well, I can't get into the remote access. And he's like, oh my gosh, I wonder what's going on. So then he goes to the server and starts mucking around with a broken remote access. Obviously, what had broken things was the firewall change he made, but he couldn't make that connection. You know, I don't think you have to be in troubleshooting for very long to say, I made this change, something broke. Chances are, if those happened like back to back, what I did broke something, right? So anyway, so how do you make sure that people manage this properly? Well, the answer is that you must have a very, very clear policy about how all of your technicians touch routers and firewalls. And it's basically the same. Log in, verify that you have a good password, make sure that password is recorded, and then the very, very first thing that you do is you back up that configuration to a very specific known site. In my case, I always loved on the server, there is a /bang tech directory. Okay, and in the bang tech directory, you put stuff like hardware and software configurations, and that's where you store the configuration of the firewall. And now that you've done that, now you can make your changes, whether that is to change a password, change a configuration, open a port, run a wizard, whatever you need to do. Doesn't matter what it is. And then you immediately make another backup of that configuration. And now you have two timestamps. You have exactly what it was like before you touched anything and exactly what it is after you made a change. And then you do what you can to verify that everything is okay and move on from there. And you never delete those backups. Those backups have a name with a timestamp in it. So it will be whatever, router config 2020 1225. Boom. And if you need an extra digit or two, then you put an 01 or 02 after that. And that way, you know exactly where you were in that process, and you can restore to multiple points. Again, you're not going to do this very often, but when you do, it's critical that you be able to put things back to exactly the way they were. And I'll give you a little bit of a follow-up. The moron did not do this, and so I had to go dig in up to my elbows into that firewall to try to figure out what he broke exactly. The truth is, most of everything was fixed by running a wizard that opened the ports and running a wizard that made the configurations work they were supposed to. So thank goodness modern firewalls have that. Believe me, it was not that way in the old days. So yeah, it's a little easier to fix than it used to be, but it's a whole lot easier to not fix if you just take your time, be careful, slow down, and back up those configurations. For Small Biz Thoughts, this is Carl Palchuk, wishing you the best of luck in your managed service business.
Please like, share, subscribe, and don't forget to ring that bell so you can be notified when we post a new video.